Remember, you should pace yourself with your table mates. Don't try to win the eating contest. Pace yourself with them and their pace with eating. Keep in mind, too, that in some cultures, if you finish everything on your plate, in some cultures, they will bring you more. Okay, that's not tonight. This is not that culture. But there are some cultures where you're expected to leave a little bit on your plate, and that lets the host and hostess know that you are satisfied. They have completely satisfied your appetite. But if you eat everything, they're like, oh, I didn't see to all of their needs. I must have to give them some more. Okay? And that could go on a really long time, and you could leave really, really sick and full. Okay? So make sure that you are aware of the culture when you're going into it, what their standards are, what their norms are, the cultural uniqueness. Yes, ma'am. I know I keep saying this. This is a really good question, but this is a really good question. Is it ever appropriate to drink through a straw, basically? And the answer is actually yes. It is, but only if you truly have teeth sensitivity or something like that. In most formal dining settings, you are not going to be offered a straw. It's going to be difficult for them to probably find one. If you truly have teeth sensitivity and you're going to a formal dining setting, you might actually want to bring your own. I know that sounds odd, but otherwise you're not going to be able to participate, and they're going to want you to eat. So keep it to a minimum, okay? If you absolutely have to. I'm not saying if you prefer, I prefer to drink with a straw. No, that's not enough. But if you really need it for almost like medical, then yes, you may ask for one. And they may or may not have one on hand, like I said. Yes, sir. If you're not using your knife, can you place your fork in your dominant hand? Well, it depends on, you should be either using the continental or the American version, in which case, there you go. Then, yep. So that would be the American version then. If your fork is in your non-dominant hand, it means you're using the American eating method. And then, so your knife then goes across the top of your plate with the serrade near you. And you are so sick of hearing me say those words, aren't you? With the serrade facing you. Okay, so I'm going to refresh a couple things. Just to remind you that once you've used a piece of silverware, it does not go back on the linens. Make sure that you are holding your silverware delicately, that it doesn't look like you're going to hurt somebody with it. They're delicately in your hands. You don't have that death grip on it. And when you are needing to cut, that you are cutting your meat or whatever it is. You shouldn't be sawing at it, all right? So cut, don't saw. If something were to happen and you dropped a piece of silverware on the floor, know that it is okay to let the server know that you've dropped it. You probably want to let them know that rather than to try to pretend it didn't happen. And that's for other people's safety as well. You don't want them to trip on it or slip on it or something like that. So if something falls on the floor, particularly silverware, napkin, you should let the server know so that they can replace it if need be, but certainly to get it out of a place of traffic where somebody could get hurt. In good etiquette, nobody goes home in an ambulance. Yes? If food gets dropped on the linen, you'd really, if you can discreetly sort of move your plate, really you just sort of ignore it. Those things happen. Now, if it's a glass of water or something like that, they may need to switch it out. How's your linen over there?
No, it's good. I'm a messy feeder, so I'm scared if I drop zucchini, like claws on this table.
Yes. Now, what you could do is you could pick it up and put it on the side of your plate, if it's something like that. But if it's just like a little drip, don't worry about it. Like if it was gravy or a little drip of salad dressing, you don't worry about it. But if it's like a big piece of something, then yes, you should pick it up and put it on the side of your plate. Okay? Then just try to remember not to eat it, because that would make people wonder. Okay? This is sort of an odd rule in that when it's served to you, your plate is presented to you and put down in front of you, you can only move your plate one time. Okay? So you shouldn't be like rotating it 25, eat this and then rotate. So you like one time you can adjust your plate. If it's not laid out how you want it to be, you can move it one time. All right? But don't keep moving it and moving it and moving it. Yes?
If you have like a soft, so like you have this that you can just cut with your fork. Can you cut it with your fork, or do you have to get your knife out?
The question is, if it is a soft food like the zucchini or like a vegetable, and you are able to cut it with the side of your fork, is that okay? And the answer is yes. Soft foods, you are definitely allowed to cut it with your fork rather than use your knife, if it's done easily. Otherwise, you need to employ your knife. Your plate, if they set down your plate and it's too far from you, it's okay to move your plate toward you, okay? Usually it's not more than like the tip of your thumb between where it's on the, I'm not saying this well. Okay, so if this is a table, and it is, then you would just be like the tip of your thumb at the most, probably. You don't want it to be too far in front of you, your plate, okay? So make sure it's not too far in front of you. Otherwise, you'll end up spilling all along the front. Yes?
Does that count as your one move?
That does not count as your one move. Good question. Remember to mind your posture where you're sitting. Okay, so remember to still kind of sit up straight. Yes?
So if you're finished and everybody else is still eating, how do you place your hands, or how do you?
If you're finished and everybody else is eating, again, it depends on your culture what you should be doing. If you're finished eating and other people are still eating, depending on the culture, you should either keep both hands showing, just like that, yep. Or it's okay to put your hands in your lap. Some people talk, they use their hands when they talk, and that's fine. You can use your hands. You should be like, whoa. You're going to be all over the place, but it's okay to gesture some. Don't knock over plates. I was at a dinner the other night. We were watching this chef thing down at the Arts Museum. He was cooking, and one woman, she reached over to hug the lady next to her and knocked over the bottle of wine, and I thought, maybe too much wine. Okay, so just be careful with your gestures. Another thing to keep in mind, if you are finished eating, again, this goes with the moving of the plates. Don't move the plate away from you. Again, you signal by the placement of your utensils. If you are finished, the server will come and get them when they have a chance. But don't start moving the plate away from you. That's considered disrespectful. In some countries, it's a profession to be a server. That is their profession. And you don't tip them because they make a darn good salary doing it. So if you start stacking your dishes or moving them away from you, you've insulted them, because now you've made it seem like they are not doing their job adequately. Know this too. Again, your server is there to help you. Not be a servant, but to serve you and to serve you well. So if you have a lot of food on your plate, let's say that it's just not something you cared for, they may not realize, they may not catch up that you are done. So even if your silverware is in the right position to let them know, and they've cleaned up everybody else's plates and yours is still there, they might think you don't know proper silverware placement. So it's okay to say, I'm finished with this. You could take this. That's all right. They won't mind. One of the things I think I maybe neglected to mention with community items, and let's use the rolls as an example. When it's a community item, if you are the one closest to it and you pick it up, like the plate of bread, of rolls, if it's closest to you, what you actually do is rather than start sending it off this direction, you can offer it to this person as well. Pass it to them, then you can take yours and then pass it. Okay? Questions? Oh, are you wondering if it's dessert time? Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. Could you what? What? Should you not move your food around on your plate? It's best if you not look like you're playing with your food. Now, if you need to move something out of the way of another, then it's okay to move your food around on your plate. But it should not look like you're playing some sort of game. I mean, it needs to, does that make sense? Okay. If your plate is cleared and you want to go ahead and start eating dessert, go right ahead. Pardon? No. Now, only because the question was, are you sure? I mean, it's not everybody at our table is done eating their main course. But because this is preset, we are going to eat it in the correct order, but you don't need to wait for everybody at your table to be done necessarily. Okay? Now, you could wait, but you do not have to wait. Okay? Now, this brings me to another point. When you sat down at the table, there were already desserts there, and there was rolls there. That doesn't mean as soon as you sit down and everybody's sitting at the table that you can just start mowing down on your dessert. No, dessert comes at the end in formal dining, okay? So you need to wait for that course before you start eating. And if you're ever in question, can I start, picking out a roll? Can I do whatever? If there is a host or a hostess, if you're invited to somebody's house, if it is obvious that, if it's an employer, an interview, they are playing host. So you follow their lead, okay? But go ahead and eat dessert if you want. And while you're doing that, let's talk about some more of the business etiquette of things. Handshakes. Okay, how many of you feel that you give a very good handshake? Okay, do any of you know that you need to work on your handshake? Okay, some of you do. Okay, you've all gotten the bad handshake, right? Where it's like they almost hand you their hand. It's like, I don't know what to do with the third hand. I don't need this, right? It's like lame. It's like a dead fish. You almost want to wipe it off, okay? So some of you might know Dr. June Smith in the communications department. And she has this great strategy to increase the likelihood of you offering and receiving a good handshake. Because sometimes, you go for a good handshake and they just grab you too quick, right? Okay, so instead, what you should do, instead of going up to them like this, fan your fingers just ever so slightly. Okay? because they're not going to grab just your fingertips. Okay, that would be ridiculous, right? So it increases the likelihood of them reaching and grabbing your full hand. And you want to end up, they call it web to web, all right? Now, with a handshake, gentlemen, you want, even if you're shaking hands with a lady, you offer them a nice firm handshake. Particularly in business, the playing field is level. Okay, so offer ladies a nice firm handshake. Ladies, you need to be offering a nice firm handshake. If you want to be treated well in business, then you need to act business. You need to offer a nice firm handshake. Name tags. Name tags go on your right side. Okay, so if you're wearing a name tag, it goes on your right side, and the reason it goes on your right side is because we shake hands with our right hand. Regardless of whether we're left-handed or right-handed, you shake hands with your right hand. And when you are wearing name tags, when you put forward your hand to meet somebody, you're shaking, this shoulder automatically moves forward. That way I can see your eyes, I can look down at your name tag, and I've got the connection. Okay? But if you've got it on the other side, now it's over here, and I can't see what's going on. So, right side. Also, and this might seem a little ridiculous, but it needs to be placed about 4 inches from your shoulder. Okay, about 4 inches down. If it's too high, it begins to look like a little bird on your shoulder, okay, and they can't read it. If it's too low, ladies, we run into other problems. Okay, so about 4 inches from your shoulder. You know, I just saw somebody at my table over there. Okay, here's the thing with shaking hands. You generally don't want to do it at the table while you're across the table. I just think I got my elbow in something. Okay, if you see that somebody is approaching your table and they want to greet you, you should try to stand up and hold your hand out and offer a handshake. Okay, try. Now, sometimes you're not going to see them, and you might end up like this, and that's all right, okay? But generally not across tables. Here's another thing that you do not do at the table. You don't hand out business cards at the table. Okay, your business cards, bring them and use them. It's okay even if you're a student, if you don't have your first job yet. Many students will create business cards for themselves. But you want to pass them out discreetly. This shouldn't be, you know, one of these. You know, everybody gets a business card, okay? You want to be a little discreet about it, exactly. Be a little discreet about it. And when you have your business card, when you're presenting it to somebody, like I said, you probably want to wait till after the meal. When you're talking more socially, right before you leave, you might get up from the table, you place your napkin because you're leaving for the day or the evening. What side do you place your napkin on? Awesome. Okay, so then you put that, you excuse yourself, and you go up to the person, you say, you know, I hope to see you again, or I'd love to hear from you, or thank you for the conversation, whatever it might be. And then you present them with your business card. When you present somebody with your business card, it needs to be in nice shape. It shouldn't be crinkled. It shouldn't have somebody else's name and phone number on the back. It shouldn't be dirty. And you should present it to them with 2 hands with your name facing them. Okay? Do not, if you are meeting somebody, and particularly in some cultures, do not turn their card over and start writing something on the back. Okay? Some cultures, this is their identity, and if you start writing on it, it's like writing on their identity. That's disgraceful. That's disrespectful. Okay? So make sure that you are aware of those cultural differences if you are traveling. Another thing to keep in mind is, if this is somebody's identity, gentlemen, it does not need to go in your wallet and stuck by your bum. Okay? So the best thing to do is, yes, place it into your jacket pocket. If you have a card holder, even if you don't have a nice this card holder, sorry, let me try that again. If you don't have a nice business card holder, it's a good idea to get one. You might keep your business cards on one side if it has 2 pockets, and those that you receive on the other side, just to keep them organized. Okay. How was dessert? It looked good.
I was a little nervous at first. Like, I was like, what is that? It was really good.
Was it? Some of you are probably thinking about that about several of the food items. I'm not sure about this. And that's what you're going to run into. You don't always get to pick what is on your plate. At receptions and conferences, you're just like, this is what you get. Yeah, it's like, I hope I like it because I am so hungry. And some of you are now thinking, I got to stop somewhere after this because I am so hungry. With that, I will bid you good night. Have a good evening, and good luck on the rest of your semester.